Live music is a huge part of the music industry, with the likes of Kylie Minogue and George Michael performing to millions of people worldwide. You very rarely hear about the people behind the scenes who make these huge productions possible. I met up with Gary Bradshaw, a well-established professional sound engineer who's been in the live sound business for over 30 years. He shared with me some of his experiences.
Well, I guess it would be nice.
Hi Gary, thanks for coming along. Could you just tell us about some of the artists you've worked with?
Well, I've just finished doing George Michael, Take That, Simply Red, Kylie, Annie Lennox, Eurythmics, Diana Ross, Brian Ferry, XTC, Stranglers, loads of stuff.
So how did you first get into the sound engineering business?
Me and my brother had a band. We just weren't very good, basically. We bought sound equipment and people had come up and say, could we hire your equipment? So we go, yeah, you know, so we sort of quickly realised we could make more money out of hiring the equipment out than playing.
How has technology changed over the years?
Well, dramatically, I'd say. I mean, in the old days, it was literally stuffing things in the back of a transit van driving up and down the M1. And you look at it now, you know, like that Take That tour was something like 56 trucks of all sorts of high-tech, very expensive gear.
The sky's up above me.
You do a lot of travelling around when you're going on tour with artists. Does it ever affect your home life?
Just a bit, yeah. Well, I'm divorced, so that was the direct consequence of all that, you know, so you're just never at home, you know, and it does disrupt things. It's not a good one for relationships.
There must be a lot of pressure working on these big productions. Has there ever been a time when something has gone terribly wrong?
You know, you're dealing with sort of high-tech stuff, so quite often the equipment will go wrong. The worst one was end of the 80s. I did a gig with Roger Waters at the Berlin Wall. It was a massive gig. There was about 1/3 people in the audience, and the PA went off after the first song. And you know, even though it wasn't my fault, I got a lot of the blame for that. But that went wrong on a fairly big scale there.
What would you say is the most complicated production you've had to do?
The most complicated one to mix was Mike Oldfield, which was Tubular Bells, which, you know, there's no vocals in it, nothing's repeated, there's no verses and choruses, just loads and loads of little bits of tunes all joined together with different mixes for each one. And this was before digital mixing desk, so this was doing it all hands-on.
Have you had to work with any particularly difficult artists?
Well... George Michael is not the easiest guy to get on with. He's never around for a very long time. Like, he doesn't rehearse, but he's got very specific ideas of what he wants it to sound like. So without him being there for a lot of the rehearsals, that makes it difficult.
Who would you say is the most enjoyable person to work with?
I've done Will Young a couple of times, and he's just Mr. Nice Guy. You know, he's just a really, you know, very well-mannered, very polite, generous sort of bloke, you know. And I did a Brummie band called Ocean Colour Scene for a long time. That was a proper sort of band, you know, it's like, you know, they were good to work for.
Is there anyone that you haven't worked with who you'd really like to?
I mean, there's you know, the Rolling Stones are still going, you know, that'd be a good one to do. I did a little bit of stuff with Paul McCartney, not proper gigs, just he did an unplugged, MTV unplugged thing, which I did, and that was great, you know, big Beatles fan. So, you know, but he's still up and going doing proper shows, and I've come close to doing it a couple of times, but just hasn't sort of worked out, you know.
Is there anyone you wouldn't work with again?
Diana Ross was a bit of a sort of tricky one, you know, just this, you know, throwing tantrums and stuff like that. But other than that, no. I mean, I've been lucky really. All the people I've worked for have all been sort of half decent sort of people, you know.
This documentary has given us an insight into the life and career of a professional sound engineer. Thank you for listening, and also a big thank you to Gary Bradshaw for taking the time out to share with us some of his experiences within the live music industry.